You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices with Vicki McManus-Peterson and Dr. Chad Johnson.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Everyday Practices. And we've got Vicki McManus-Peterson here. Hi, Vicki.
Hello, Chadwick.
And today we have a colleague from across town, Steffany Mohan. Dr. Mohan, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
We're going to go all proper now.
Right.
Oh, I got to tell you, Steffany, I have been looking forward to this for a long time because you are a femme fatale. I think you are just a really smart businesswoman. You're
Thanks for the know one, Vicki.
Thank you. I think you represent women in our industry very well. You're a role model for strength and courage. And I have seen you jump off the cliff wondering if you packed a parachute more than once. And you always made the flight look beautiful. So I'm so excited to welcome you here in our silly time together as we talk about everyday practices and pick your brain a little bit.
Very, very, very kind of you. I mean, have looked up to you forever because you do everything. I mean, I can't imagine what you can't do. Yeah.
Talk to Pete. Talk to my husband. He'll tell you. He's got a list.
No, and don't talk to mine. Don't talk to mine. I mean, but we don't talk enough. We don't see enough of each other. So it's really, thank you. I mean, this is like, it's great just to even get to chat for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and for the audience, I want them to know that Dr. Steffany is across town from me, probably 25-minute drive kind of stuff. So, it's close enough, but far enough away. And we get together occasionally and talk through business stuff. And it's always fun. She, as a mentor, to bounce ideas off of her. And we always, whenever we have lunch stuff, it goes like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It never is like a power hour, I wish we could contain it, but we don't, and by the end, I think we've solved half the world's problems and
created the other half.
Right. It's so much fun for us to talk about, so that's being said. I'm glad you came on the show.
I think we've just stumbled on one of the best everyday practices ever is pick up the phone and just call a colleague and take time for lunch.
Yes. And you know what's interesting, Steph? You and I, in some regard, because we're, if we're to toot our own horns, but let's be serious. There are people that can't do the kind of business, the kind of marketing and branding that you and I both do. But what's cool is I'm not concerned if you're, doing well, like that doesn't negatively concern me or make me jealous. Right. I'm always happy to hear that you're doing well. And at the same time, I always can confide with you because I know that you're happy that I'm doing well too. And
you could be 5 minutes away and I would still feel that way.
I actually think so. I do. It's tougher to believe that of the other person before you get to know people. But because we do know each other well enough, that I could say, like if you said, hey, I bought the practice across the street, I'd be like, oh, shoot. But wait, I like her.
I gotta up my game. I gotta up my game.
And yes, because Steffany knows how to crush it. Yeah.
Well, thanks. That's very, very sweet. And it's, it's just nice to have, I think that in our profession, sometimes people worry about those things. And, I think you worry about what's inside your practice instead of what's outside your practice,
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. And you are, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable about sharing numbers, but give us an idea of the makeup of your practice.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about it.
This is interesting actually, because we have one large practice. I wanted it that way for a while because I actually tried the 2-practice thing back in 2005 and I didn't like it. So now we actually have 3, and April 1st coming up in just a few weeks, we're adding a 4th. And we're actively expanding because we've learned so much that we want to kind of keep going with it. Mm-hmm. we're being very deliberate about that and about growth. And so we have a main practice that has 14 operatories. Actually, we actually kind of have 13 operatories right now. We loaned the chair and the light from one of our operatories to one of the other offices. But then we have a second office that is about $1 million practice, and we have a third office that's maybe someday will be like, not maybe someday. It does about that much most months, I guess. So like kind of approaching that level. So, and the main office is about, 3 to 4 times that size. So yeah.
Very good. So look, huge entrepreneurship.
I think most people would think that I'm an entrepreneur for sure. I mean, I like.
Absolutely correct. That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
And are you in partnership with the other doctors? Are you the primary owner? How does that work?
I do all the stuff that nobody else really wants to do at this point.
Yeah.
I like supporting doctors. I like letting them really do what trips their trigger and what they really enjoy doing, and giving them all the support. So what, the hardest thing for us to learn, or me, I guess is probably me, I still do quite a bit of dentistry. I really enjoy it. I don't enjoy doing it all the time because I really, really like having some leeway and some flexibility, like going to, meetings and things and not having to worry about what my team is doing while I'm gone and that kind of thing. But I know people say this and they say it, but the culture of your organization, the culture of your team is everything. And that's a leadership thing. So I didn't feel like I was an effective leader when I was at the chair all the time. And then, people would sort of just like interrupt me when I could. I'm a much more deliberate leader, and we're much more deliberate about our culture. So like a good example is that we don't really write people up anymore. If somebody is having some trouble with something, we sit down and we have a conversation. We're like, hey, tell me what's going on. Like, how's everything going? What are, and we'll kind of broach the subject of what was kind of like the issue or whatever, but we won't really because I feel like that the style of writing somebody up makes you feel like you're 6 years old and you just, you got into the cookie jar and you kind of knew you weren't supposed to, but you did it anyway. And it just sort of changes the relationship.
Yeah.
So
are there deal breakers though in your value stream?
Oh gosh, yeah.
So
yeah.
like, I'm not, you steal from me, you lie to me, you kick my dog.
Yeah.
You're
The country song.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. If you're a country song, we got to go. One of our things is that, if my management team, so I have kind of an HR manager, I have kind of an operations manager, and then I have somebody that's kind of in between that, used to be an assistant and kind of goes back and forth a little bit. And if we keep having conversations about the same person, we kind of just know that that's a sign that, women have a bad rap for being high maintenance, but there are plenty of women out there that aren't high maintenance, and we really love those women.
Yeah.
So
for me, the culture, I love how you're describing this, because for me, the culture is kind of like a triangle.
Yeah.
In the center is your core values. And that's what you're describing here, that intuitive knowing. We just know that they fit with our values or not. And then on one side is like the rituals. We always start our day on time. We do this on birthdays. You've got your kind of tribal rituals and things. And then there's the stories. Yep. Oh, yeah. Remember when Melinda came on and this was happening? Oh, and doctors went here and learned there. So it's the stories of education. It's the stories of success. It's the stories you tell your patient about.
Like the family, like you would do.
Like the family. Yeah, it's the family stories. And then there's that line of consequences. And I just loved what you said, like, boom, like you just turned HR on its head and said, we don't write you up. You choose to be here and, or not. And we're going to have conversations about it.
That's right. If you want to get rid of somebody, writing them up is a really quick, easy way to get rid of somebody.
Yeah.
Everybody sort of knows that if you have to write somebody up, you're pretty much done. We didn't use it that way before. We used it as like a managerial thing before that I think we didn't fully understand. And so what we say now is we went from sort of a management style to a leadership style.
Tell us the difference.
I like that.
Well, I think management means that you think that you're in charge of making sure everybody does what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
And leadership means that you make sure everybody knows that they know what to do. That they understand.
It's empowering.
It's empowerment. Absolutely. Yeah. And so as a leader, I believe in you. As a manager, I have my thumb on you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I've experienced that, especially if you put somebody in as HR, head of HR, they're always looking like, okay, I got to justify my job here. Who can I write up today? Somebody has to be doing something wrong. Otherwise, I'm not needed.
Oh, you know how happy I am when days go by that nobody does anything that I have to think about? It's wonderful. It's the sweet spot,
It is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
that's cool. So you're saying, Vicki, that bureaucracy kind of helps maintain itself by creating drama.
Well, yeah, I think bureaucracy.
You're like, yep.
I wouldn't frame it that way, but you remember we do that life cycle of a business, and you start out and you're at infancy and go, and it's really fun, and then you get into adolescence and there's turf wars, and then you get out of adolescence and you get in this prime zone. That sounds like what Dr. Mohan is describing. Is that what are the attributes of a team that's at prime? Because when you tip over and you become stable. And it's a distinction that I've learned. Most doctors say, I just want to stabilize the practice. And there's no such thing. You're either prime is like, I've got great systems in place. They're predictable. It's consistent. And I'm still innovating. Yeah. Stable means I'm locked it in. I don't want to innovate. And then you get into bureaucracy. And then you get aristocracy. And then you go bankruptcy. Yeah. So I don't ever want bureaucracy.
I can't believe you have that curve memorized without looking that up. It's almost like you had a sheet right there. That's impressive.
Almost like I've given that talk once or twice.
Right.
Yeah.
But you gave me a new context for it, right? You gave me, what does a prime team look like? So I know what prime rib looks like, but you just gave me like prime team.
So Chad, the difference between me and Vicki is that she's so much smarter than me. She can put it into this big, loop
presentation.
And I have to make it really simple.
Right.
No, that's perfect.
Well, boots on the ground.
You know what? I do like to boil things down into really, really simple though. And I will tell you, if if you keep talking about a person, even if they have, we have somebody that has the best skills, but we're constantly talking about some of their behaviors. And you know what? That person doesn't fit with our culture. And so it's you hate to lose the skill set and you hate to lose that person, but so you can talk about some of the behaviors, but if you keep talking about it, we're all exhausted.
Right.
And that is, that's a sign, and you have to remember those signs. Like you said, it's intuitive. It's something that you have to remember. There's certain things. At the end of the day, it's not about the team. It's about the patient. It's about all the patients. It's not about us. It's about them. And we're serving.
Well, I would suspect that one of your core values is lift each other up.
Absolutely. And I want people to love to come to work. I don't want anybody to get up in the morning and go, never. I don't want, everybody's.
So Chad, if she ever calls you and go, hey, I've got this great assistant and, we just can't use her anymore. She's terrific. You're going to love her.
You know what's funny is how many
that actually has happened.
And did it work out good?
You know what? We have kind of a standing joke between us because I have 3 of her employees from and they're wonderful, and I always feel bad because I'm just so I joke, I almost broach the subject by just saying, hey Steph, do you have any more employees that I can steal from you?
Okay, you're just confirming my.
But ask him the last one that he got. It's been years, before we kind of figured out our culture, actually.
Yeah.
So,
and furthermore, what's interesting? I mean, you helped set up good expectations and whatnot. One of them, to be fair,
they're good people.
Right. One of them's my cousin. I mean, so.
Okay, wait. I was going to say this before, but I have to say this.
For a long time.
You two are proving my inner bias, which I should not have, that people in Iowa are just a little too close.
I didn't say I was married to my cousin.
You're connected through you're not even 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon here.
Okay. And I'm going to prove to you that that's the right way. Because the world would be a better place if we would treat everybody like Iowans treat each other.
Right,
I agree with that. I'm gonna give you a gold star on that one.
Hey, Vicki, with Steffany, I want to brag on her for a minute because she probably wouldn't bring this up. Steffany, when was the last marathon that you ran?
About a month and a half ago.
Isn't that awesome? This was your first one, right?
Yeah, it'll be my last one too.
First and last one.
It was more a bucket list thing. Yeah.
But
So
if you don't see the A personality coming out in the audience with Steffany, you know, here's her whole family. How many of the family ran this one?
Just me and my husband, because we're supposed to be in school, so we left them there. But you know, I mean, no,
they're supposed to be in school.
Well, they were. Well, it was a Sunday, so they weren't actually in school. But we were in Florida and they were in Iowa, so you know, yeah.
Gotcha.
Gosh, I'm not much of a runner. My husband's actually really, really good, and he, you know, kind of pulled me through it. And it was more of a mindset thing than it was anything else, really.
What did you learn from it?
I learned that we should be kinder to our bodies, not like run marathons all off or whatever. But like it's
good for you for saying that.
Right? It's so much more about what you put into your body. I was thrilled that I don't have any aches and pains before, during, or after. After a little bit, but not like long term. My knees held out. You know, I'm almost 50, so my body held up pretty well. Honestly, I was kind of happy about that. I learned about how to do nutrition during a longer, race. I wasn't racing. Let's be clear. It was a run that I was going to finish. My goal was just to finish, and so it was a goal. I set a goal, and I accomplished a goal, and that feels good. It was something I said I'd never do. So yeah, I learned a lot from it. I learned, definitely like long runs. You have to learn. You have to learn kind of how to mentally deal with that. So, I mean, I tested my mental, capacity and all. I mean, I think what I had kind of fallen into a rut of I think I'm getting older, and what I needed to do was prove to myself, I'm really only as old as I feel or think, or, so that was it was more of a mental exercise for me. It sounds
good for you.
Congratulations.
Well, not only that, but, Stephanie's always on the sidelines with her kids who are the A types, killing it with triathlons and half Ironman and full Ironman and everything like that, let alone your husband. So for you to once say, you know what, I'm going to go out there and do it. That was really good for you. My
overly athletic kids think I'm pathetic. So.
Well,
my kids do it like that. For my 50th, I was similar. I was like, I got to do this thing because I've always been healthy, never broken a bone, never had a surgery. Yes, and I've got so many friends that at the peak of their health, they were just taken out, by some disease or something like that. So I challenged myself to climb Mount St Helens.
That's amazing.
I know. And
she coughs from that.
I'm still in pain from that. And that was 7 years ago. And so we did it with, and we trained for a year. And here's what my kids would say every time I go for a hike. They go, "You're an athlete, Mom."
Oh, gee.
So, and they were trying to convince you or them?
No, I think they were patronizing
they're just like,
her.
Why are you doing that?
Right.
You're going to get hurt. This is a mountain. This is a mountain.
And to be fair, and because we're not going to talk about the time that it took me, because it was very long for my marathon. But my son that did the Ironman last summer was like, "Mom, it took you a really long time." I'm like, so?
I did it.
I'll tell you what, Steph, you've finished one more marathon than I've ever finished.
Oh, yeah,
well, I mean, seriously.
And I've always
attached your bike at the hip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've always had the metaphor that dentists need to be in the mindset of a marathon. Like if you're working 4 days a week, you need to be in the mindset of a marathon, and don't compare yourself to Bruce Baird and what he's producing, because he's a sprinter. He's 2 days a week, and he'll be the first one to say, I couldn't produce per hour what I produce if I had to do it in 4 days.
Of course.
And that's me too. I can't do 4 days of dentistry. I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't talk about being a marathoner because
I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy dentistry 4 days a week. I love it 2.5. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, or 3. I covered a maternity leave recently for one of my docs. So I was here a lot, and they all heard about it. Like, you guys,
every day.
This is hard.
Yeah, it was hard. Because I don't do dentistry just like everybody else, and I am a little more entrepreneurial with it. I so admire people that love being at the chair and they don't want to do anything else. And I think that's why my company has evolved that way, that I really want to support those people that really love to just do clinical dentistry because, and I think that's how our profession is evolving. You're very few people are both, I think either a clinician or you're a business person, but most people are not like a huge combination of both. And if you really, really love doing the dentistry, find people to put around you that can support you to do it so that you really enjoy it. I think the hardest part is when people are not enjoying it and they don't know what changes to make. And that's where like Productive Dentist Academy is amazing, because you guys help people to enjoy it so much more.
Well, thank you for that.
No, you're an incredible organization.
Well, thank you. And I know you had a period of time, and you're such a great internal consultant for your own team, like what deep resources, but there was a time that you did external consulting. So I have a question. This will kind of set Chad up a little bit. Are there any wrong questions? Have you ever come across, I want Steffany to answer first. Have you ever come across a doctor or someone that just asked a really dumb question? I mean, are there right questions, wrong questions?
Okay, so you mean besides what is a fortnight?
Dun, dun, dun.
I mean, I poll and find out how many people knew what that was. So yes, I think the wrong question is when you're not in tune with yourself or you're not being honest with yourself, and those are all the wrong questions. Like, how can I make more money? But you don't like what you're doing. Yeah. So like, it's not about that. It's about how can I really, because again, like a career, anybody's career is a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, like, when you describe Bruce as a sprinter, that's cool, but he still has had a marathon career.
Yeah, over 30 years. He's actually transitioning and hanging up the handpiece in May.
I know, I heard. That's
45 years. Like, that's a long time. But that you answered that so great, because the wrong question is, how do I make more money?
Yeah, and it is. That's completely the wrong question.
Bruce's right question has always been, how do I deepen my relationships and how do I have a bigger impact?
Yeah.
And so we're super excited because he's all fired up and he's podcasting now and he's going to be coaching more and doing more of that.
Oh, that's
impact.
So great.
Yeah, impact stuff. And he's like,
one-on-one when you're here, but he can impact so many people.
Yeah, and he even had this question. He's like, with the young guys, am I still relevant or whatever? And I said, you know what? Bringing your heart to everything you do, and as being as authentic and genuine as you are, that is timeless, and that is so needed on all levels. People need permission.
How many people, like if there was a sensei that was obviously older, they were bald or had gray hair and stuff like that, but they were the sensei, okay? They were the master of their martial art or whatever. For them to go, I wonder if I'm relevant to the white belt. It's just like, you are a sensei master. It's like, don't do that. Like you have to be you.
Yeah, he's the guy that can put his finger on your chest and you go flying across.
Yes, that's right. The 1-inch punch.
Okay, this just in case Bruce ever trips over here and listens to our podcast. Put her hands again and go, Sensei.
Oh yeah. No, you know what? People like him. I mean, the problem is, like, wouldn't you love to take somebody and document every single season and step along the way? Because I mean, I'd love to go back 30 years with him and like really go back to where, it all changed for him. Or
when he calls himself a boss hole back in the day.
He was a boss hole back in the day.
Vicki, one thing that I do is at our 10-year mark, I'm 14 years into practice. I graduated when I was 25, and I thought, I'll have a 40-ish year career, and every 10 years will kind of be the end of a quarter. And when I got to the end of my first quarter, I was like, you know what? I want to have, we did a barbecue celebration here. Steph, we had Hickory Park come down and the local KIOA radio station and stuff like that come. And we had a bouncy house for the kids and had a celebration celebrating the end of my first quarter. Now, I didn't tell people because that would sound too egocentric that it was about me celebrating the end of my first quarter. But we celebrated a 10th anniversary barbecue, celebrating the patients and the community. And I'm going to do that at halftime. And so in another 6 years or so, I'm going to have another barbecue, and we're just going to keep on doing that. Now, if I get to 65 at the end of my fourth quarter, at the end of the game, and I decide I want to go into overtime, it's overtime. It's extra credit that I get to just enjoy. And, but I've always thought of it as just, taking it a little step at a time. And it's kind of cool to think it's just like, wow, I've got a quarter done. And I've got, I'm kind of like half-ish way through my second quarter, and how am I pacing myself for the marathon, for the race and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, balance is a huge part of it, right? So I'm 23 years in, so I'm almost a decade farther than you. And when you're young, you can skip the workouts, you can skip the healthy eating, you can skip some of that stuff and still be pretty effective. And when you get to my age, you really wake up and you say, I can't give everything to my patients or to my team or to my family or whatever if I don't really take extremely good care of myself. It's the oxygen, you put on yourself first or whatever. But dads, I see dads do a little bit better job of that than moms. I think moms are horrific at it.
Yeah, they can have the martyr syndrome where it's just like the kids don't let me work out. And yeah.
Well, yeah, we do. I mean, but I think we learned that from our moms, and then, they learned it from their moms, and, we.
Well, sometimes you have to think if I don't take care of the kids, who's going to?
Well, there's a good point. Yeah.
Child services are going to show up.
I will say that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy going to a meeting here or there, or even taking a girls trip or doing something like that. Now my kids are older, so it's different for me. But I have found a lot more balance where I don't feel, my mom never, ever, ever left us for like 20 years. And so while that was a great example and she was an amazing mom, she's still an amazing mom. Like, it was a bad example for me because I felt guilty leaving my kids for work, let alone for, to take a weekend with my husband or to take a weekend girls trip or something like that. So I just thought it was wrong.
Notice the culture here, Vicki, too, because Steph, you were a farm girl, right?
Yeah, pretty much. My dad was a vet.
Right. And so, that plays into it for the audience to kind of know that.
Yeah, people have to stay close to the farm, right? That's true.
Right.
I have to ask you a question, though, Steffany. I am seeing 2, maybe 3 brand new conferences popping up in the U.S. for women only, dental entrepreneurs. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing the need for this? What do you?
So I've never seen more of a need for it than I do now because I think it's complicated. And they're like, in my family, there's 2 professionals. My husband does surgery and a general medical surgery. And so we figured out a lot of stuff really early on because we had to. We had to have, I was just telling somebody that the other day, if he was, sick or I was sick or whatever, number 1, you still go to work, right?
Right.
And 2, if the kids are sick, you still go to work. And so we had to have somebody, we couldn't do daycare. It wasn't even an option for us because neither one of us could stay home. It just wasn't, I can count the number of days I've, taken off, sick or whatever on like maybe 1 or 2 fingers, I think those groups for women are crucial because I think they need the support differently. Not maybe more, but differently. And I'm a member of one of the Facebook groups that's really, it's kind of funny if you're a guy and you're, you can't get into them. I mean, it's not, they are closed.
Is that Grace's group?
Yeah, Grace's group is really, I had no idea how powerful a group of women could be for each other. It's fantastic. It's really something. And there are non-dental things that come up. I mean, there are, there are things like, people having, premature babies. There are people going through relationship changes, divorces, and things like that. And it's, I had no idea that, I needed that support 20 years ago.
Exactly. Well, and I'm seeing that too. And I've always, and Chad, not to leave you out of the conversation.
No.
But, I've always spoken to co-ed audiences, we've always skewed primarily male entrepreneurs. And then we've had some fantastic female entrepreneurs as well. Yeah. And my curious brain goes, all right, well now half the graduates are female.
Right. It's different.
But I'm not seeing as many go into the entrepreneurial track. Right. I'm seeing them come out and take a job and stay in a job. And so I kind of look at the demographic impact of where we're going to be as a profession 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if more females aren't really stepping up and saying, boy, I'd like to be an owner. I'd like to be in charge. I would like to find my leadership voice, because that's a piece they don't teach anybody, male or female, in dental school, is leadership voice. In fact, they probably beat it out of you.
Well, they think they don't have time for it because they think that they have to teach the dentistry, which is true. But I think there has to be time for it. There has to be.
I think there's teachable moments that they miss.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why some of the different groups, the Facebook groups and the different, different groups are so active, because people need that support. They need that group. They need their tribe. They need, it's gosh, I don't know what I would have done with a group like that at the time. I do know that I'm very, very bonded with women my age that have already gone through all of those transitions and those kinds of things. And those friends of mine are incredibly valuable to me. And when we get together, and even when we don't, just texting and that kind of thing, we are I heard this term, you probably heard this before, Vicki, but I had not heard this before, but it's called anamkara. And it means soul friend.
Ah.
Yeah. So it's actually an Irish saying, but it's Anam Cara, Cara, and it means soul friend. And I have soul friends, and I have soul friends because, women go through things, and it's different now because we work and we raise the family, and we try and stay married, and we, these things. And these friends of mine are so, so valuable to me, and they're soul friends.
Part of your journey.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
Yeah. So
this is such a beautiful topic. Chad, I know that we could sit here and talk to Steph. I'm like, ooh.
Chad is such a great friend to me too. I think it's just the worst thing you can do in dentistry or anything is be isolated. Yeah. And when I've had issues in my life, it's because I isolated myself because I didn't know how to ask for help, or I didn't.
How unfortunate.
Right.
Yeah. And there's people there ready and willing to help. So maybe that's a great place for us to wrap up today. If you're listening to this podcast and you need a friend to talk to, call Chad. He is always available. No, seriously, reach out to either one of us.
No, seriously. Because
there is no one, there's no one that should ever feel alone in this profession. That's a shame, because it's such a wonderful, caring profession. Steffany,
I'll email you back. It's chad@productivedentist.com. By all means, get a hold of me.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. Vicki, Vicki @productivedentist.com. And Steffany, gosh, it has been so wonderful catching up with you. I wish our podcast was more than 20 minutes, because I could spend the next 3 weeks with you.
I know, that's true.
Having fun.
That'd be great.
That would be great. All right, Chad, you know the question to ask her.
All right, let's go from deep to shallow. Steffany, I have a question. You get to choose one or the other. It's kind of just goofy but fun, okay?
Okay.
Bacon or eggs?
Eggs.
Eggs it is.
Eggs it is.
Well, for all our listeners, thanks for joining us today on Everyday Practices, and Dr. Steffany Mohan from West Des Moines, Iowa. Thanks for joining us as well.
Thanks for having me.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with Everyday Practices.